Let's jump straight into the content, you guys, with another awesome video in the Goliath Birdeater Spider Diorama. Man, is that a mouthful. We have our XPS base foam here that we've already sculpted in the previous video. And in this video, we're going to apply a DOS Airdry Clay over the existing XPS foam structure that we've already carved. And we're just going to go ahead and get it layered in so we can get this thing drying. Once this thing is fully dried out, then we can go ahead and begin layering on some base coats. And then what we'll do is we're going to go out into my local ecosystem, aka the woods around my house, and we're going to find some decayed matter, organic material, dirt, and things like that. I'm going to show you some of the things that I look for when I go out into the world to look for some mediums to use on realistic dioramas and projects like this. So that will be in the next video, but until then, go ahead and sit back and enjoy as we roll through this sculpting process. I'm going to work from this portion here all the way clockwise around the base in 12 times speed for the most part, and then when I break out the aluminum foil and some sculpting tools just to give it some detail throughout the process, I'll drop down to 6 times speed, so that way you can kind of see that in a little bit of a more relaxed, slower paced portion of the video. So here we are dropping down to a 6 times speed portion. That way you can kind of see how I'm texturing it with the aluminum foil there. And I do use a little bit of some tools here and there, but for the most part it's aluminum foil just to give variation to the overall rock dimensions and some of the little cliffs and kind of push the air dry clay where I want. I will jump back and forth between texturing and applying the clay throughout the video as we work our way around. And I specifically do that so that way I can go ahead and kind of lock in some of those details before that top layer starts to kind of chalk over or begins to even to dry into its shape. As it dries throughout the process, the DOS air dry clay will become harder to work with because it is also air dry clay after all. But for the most part, I just want to kind of go ahead and get those locked in so that way as I work my way around the overall item, I really don't have to worry about that. I did do this in 2 separate sessions, so here in a few minutes I will go down to a real time as I get kind of like a glamour shot of the front portion of the clay build. And then on a separate day, in a separate session, I went ahead and continued it around the back. You will also notice throughout the video that I'm continuously pushing the clay into all of these little ridges that I have sculpted into the XPS foam. And I'm wanting to make sure that I not only just press it into those to give it a lot more surface contact, give it a little bit more variation instead of a smooth surface, but I'm also rolling it and smushing it and spreading the clay out so that it kind of pushes any kind of air pockets out. Air pockets are not good between your foam and your clay, especially it being XPS foam. When we did the foam test, it was the weakest of all of the styrofoams that we had used. So be aware of some of those facts as you go through your own projects, but otherwise, go ahead and sit back and really enjoy as we run through this entire process. Enjoy. Now here I will just hop back in here and notate that what I'm doing here is I'm using that aluminum foil just to kind of run along the already stained and clear coated base and I'm just pushing that Airdry Clay down and onto the aluminum foil, and then I'll pull the aluminum foil away. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of rolling that clay down and then kind of using the silicone tip tool to kind of push the bottom of that clay into the little groove at the bottom of the foam base. And the goal there is to kind of create like a contact there while also just pushing the air out. So you kind of just start at one side, gently push the air out as you work your way across, and then just make sure it's making good contact. Any air in between the clay and the foam not necessarily is a weak spot, but it does create a hollow spot. So any kind of massive pressure could technically crack or break the clay yet before we get to any of the substrates or any of the clear coats that we have later on in the process waiting for us. Continuing on the way around the side there, you'll also notice here that there are some voids where the Super 77 3M adhesive did technically melt some of the foam. I had stated in the foam layering and cutting process that when that happens, it's not the end of the world. We're using the Airdry Clay to give us a hard base to kind of work off of for the overall diorama, to add a lot of weight to it. And I'll use those little voids as opportunities to push the Airdry Clay into there just to give it even more strength than what it has just layering it on top. So all these little nooks and crannies, although if you wanted to sculpt the foam and make it smooth by itself is a negative, by putting the Airdry Clay on there, it is a positive thing. So just be aware that because of what we did in the previous video, if you were to do this in different ways, it may not be what you're looking for, and you may want to choose a different adhesive, that's all. So there you can really see that I'm pushing that down the aluminum foil, removing it, and then I'll kind of tuck that edge down and into the existing foam base. This thing's looking pretty good, you guys. You can really tell the color tone between the uncured and then the already partially cured Airdry Clay on the front. Remember, 2 different sessions during this portion of the project here, and it's not a problem at all because we're doing a rock texture. It blends quite well, and we don't have to work very hard to get that to look nice. Just remember that although I'm applying a lot of texture and a lot of detail overall throughout the entire process of the Airdry Clay, we're going to cover it up with a lot of stuff. So anything that does poke through there, I just want to look very natural. As we run through some of the glamour shots here, you can just really see that it's a very simplistic base, but overall it has a lot of texture for the water feature and things like that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you haven't checked out the other playlist for the rest of the Goliath Birdeater, here's that. I will catch you guys on the next awesome video.
Thank you for watching. Check out all of these awesome videos.